Louis Burrows, right here.
Mm-hmm.
Carol Burrows.
We've been residents here in Edgewater for 45 years and enjoying it.
Well,
Yeah, that's a little while.
time pass very fast, no?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Yeah. When our kids moved here, they were in preschool, and now they're in their almost. Well, Anthony's in his 50s, and Brendan's close.
He's 49. He'll be getting there. Hey, Laura. Good. Waiting for Publishers Clearinghouse.
No.
No, just kidding.
So, what do you remember from those years, 45 years ago?
One big thing I remember is that there was a bus shelter up by the police station when the police station was here, and all the kids had to meet at the bus stop. The bus didn't come into the community to pick anybody up, which was good because then a lot of parents met each other. The kids all knew each other because they all met in the morning. So that was great. That was a good thing, I think.
When you came here, you were already married.
Oh yeah.
So, did the kids, uh, were the kids born here in the
No.
community?
No.
No, they were.
Anthony was in I think like first grade, and Brendan was in preschool. And when we first moved in here, I used to put the kids. It was typically a much older community. There weren't many young families here. So I'd put the kids in the car and drive around the neighborhood trying to find kids for them to play with. And of course, we did find a lot of kids, and they all ended up in our yard most of the time, playing baseball or basketball or whatever they wanted to do. So we did have a lot of nice neighbors with some younger children, and it turned out well. Yeah.
You were telling me a story about the community, as a community, deciding who could move here or not. Did that happen before you,
Oh
or?
yeah. That was in the 1930s, Eddie. It was way back, when I guess the person who developed this community,
The people that lived here at that time were mostly they resided in Washington D.C.
Yes.
and they came here for a vacation.
Yes.
It was a getaway weekend kind of thing. A lot of them were judges or people that were in government and stuff like that.
So, and how did you receive this story? Was your mother who told you, or it was a popular thing?
No.
no, it was documents that were saved through the years, and we have a pretty good portfolio of all those kind of documents. Some with pictures and some not, but it highlighted everything that happened from back then, pretty much up till now.
Well, I was on the board, and they asked me to get together like a history. So I've got a history starting from 1920s up to the early 70s, and I've got them in folders. And we have pictures like the original bridge, South River Bridge that raised up. That we have that, and what the beach looked like. We had people in the old-fashioned bathing suits.
Men and women with full bathing suits on.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that didn't happen when you came.
No,
When
Oh
you
no, no!
came-
This is back in the 20s and
Yes,
30s.
yes.
Yes. Yeah.
So, how many years do you think the community is celebrating now? Are we close to the 100 years old?
Well, back at 20s, 20, 30, 40, 50,
20,
60,
20 to
70,
20,
80,
100.
90, 2000. It's close. It's probably getting close to 100 years.
Yeah. There's paperwork in there about when the house up in Chestnut Hill, the big house that's
Mhm.
like a farmhouse,
The big white one.
that was the original property owner for this area.
Which one was that?
When you go down Chestnut Road,
Yes.
to the
That house
right,
to the right.
there's a big house,
White.
big white house,
Yes.
and that family was the original owner of all this, and he sold off this property, and it has a date on it, and it was way back. I'd have to look up the exact date, but it's at least 100 years ago, maybe more.
What? Why do you think this small community was divided in two neighborhoods, Chestnut Hill and Edgewater Beach?
That I do not know the answer to.
What was the question?
Why are we separated
Oh.
into two communities?
Yeah,
I don't know. I think this community was here first. Edgewater Beach was here first, and then after the war, those small homes in Chestnut Hill were all built after the war when the veterans came back, and so it was a separate area that was built after this community was built, and I guess they just named it, and I don't know whether they eventually formed a board like we have here, but that's the only thing I know about as far as there's a Chestnut Hill and an Edgewater Beach.
So, and I know that your mother used to be here in the neighborhood.
She lived in this house.
In this house,
Mhm.
not in the house.
No.
That was our house up the street.
Oh.
We lived
okay.
up there at the 200
208.
208 Edgewater Drive,
And
So-
then she lived in Silver Spring
and moved here.
because we used to go back and forth there to take care of problems she had, and we said, why don't you just move down here? So she came down, bought this house.
So was she living here before you moved to the neighborhood? No. So
No.
she came at the same time.
No,
About
after
a year later.
after we moved in. Yeah.
Okay.
The family that lived here owned what was the name of the?
Gates Marina.
They owned the people that owned this house owned Gates Marina, and they had children and everything. And I think they were getting ready to divorce, and who was it? A Speedy's wife told us that she heard the house was going to be on the market. My mom came down and knocked on the door and said, I hear you might be selling your house. I'm interested in buying it. And she bought it. And the people moved away. So that's how she got here. But she came after we moved in.
So who you think are today the oldest neighbors here?
Mhm.
The oldest, the people who lived here for the longest time that are still here.
I think the Bunky and George Furness right up here
Mhm.
on the water.
Yeah. Well, many have.
probably Speedy's family, his
Mm.
uncle. I think Stormy was.
Yeah. Penny
Yes,
Nichols
and-
has lived here.
Oh, the Nichols family.
Nichols,
Mm.
all her life. Her grandmother and her mother lived here.
Yeah. So there's probably three
A lot
or
of-
four that have been here longer
Yeah.
than we have. Laycock.
No.
Yeah, he was
Oh,
here.
Laycock. Oh.
Yeah.
Who?
Johnny Laycock used to own that house.
Okay.
He was a professor over at the Naval Academy
Okay.
and ran a sailing school.
Okay.
And his wife ran a swim team through the Red Cross
At the beach.
at the beach. They used to have a swim team, and they would race down there. And Johnny Laycock would teach sailing.
So who used to live in the house where I am at 200 Edgewater?
Rosenberry.
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 What's his first name? Ward Rosenberry and
Rosenberry.
Bernice Rosenberry.
And they both passed away.
Both passed
did
away.
They
he?
both have passed. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, because he came. His daughter used to drive until recently.
Mhm.
Used to drive him. He liked to come back to
Right.
the neighborhood.
He did. Yes, he did.
He was living in a retirement community over in Annapolis, and it wasn't too long. It just within the last few years that he passed away.
His wife passed away a few years before him.
Yeah.
So were you friends? I
Oh,
mean-
yeah.
Oh,
they
yeah.
were very nice
They were
people.
sweet.
Sweet
Actually, when
people.
we first moved in, I was talking to Bernice, and she said, "Don't tell anybody where you live." And I said, "What?" She says, this is a special community. We want only special people to live here, so don't brag about it. We like to keep everything small here.
And they were
said,
the
"Okay."
first. They were the first ones to come up and welcome us to
Yes,
this community.
they were.
The Rosemarys.
Yeah.
So, what do you remember that can be a good memory to transmit to the new neighbors that we have today, since in the last 10 years there were so many new people coming here? So, what do you remember that you would like them to know?
Well, I know, like
Stories
The-
about the beach?
in the past or now.
No, in the past.
Well, I think in the past the biggest thing was the community involvement. We had a lot of community involvement. Eddie, we would have dances with hired bands at London Town Clubhouse, some other places. We'd have like Halloween. We'd have well, not so much Halloween, but Christmas. We'd have hay bales of hay and ride around and sing Christmas carols to everybody, and a lot of participation. We had a young kids softball team, Edgewater softball team with the kids in the neighborhood, and we would play like local communities like Southdown, Mayo, and St. Mary's. We would play them. And it was just a lot of involvement. And when we had a picnic or something down at the beach, we have a couple pictures of that too. It's just a lot of people got involved. I think that's and the community hasn't changed that much, but we had more involvement by the 40-year-olds than we do now. A lot of these younger families here don't come down and participate that often. And I'm really surprised because it's very nice. Most of it's free. So.
Well, we need to consider that today's life is different.
Oh,
Yeah.
it is. Oh, it
Well,
is.
now, both husband and wife are working. You know, it's not like the mother staying home with the children kind of thing. In most cases, both people are working to keep things going and to be able to stay in their homes and stuff. So,
That's a good point.
yeah, it's just different. But I think that most of the young families here, I've noticed them come down to the beach, like when we put the playground in. Tara Hansky and a lot of the ladies up the road that are young families, they come down in a group together.
Yeah, and use the beach.
And
which
they go
I
to
like.
the beach and they let the kids play on the playground, and so they do come and use it. But sometimes, like the things that we have that are late in the evening, they can't come because their children are in bed, or that sort of thing. So they come as often as they can for anything they can. We still have Christmas parties and crab feasts and things like that, except when there's COVID, and then we don't do anything.
What a shame. What a shame.
Yeah, COVID has really messed up our social life around here for sure. When our kids were younger, and they played every day in the yard, I always had the kids around playing in the yard. When they got a little older, they were out skiing on the water, swimming at the beach. And then as they got older, they, as teenagers, they go their way. And then we continued to always have lots of friends here in the neighborhood, and we did all the things together at the beach that were planned, and take walks in the neighborhood. And I don't think there was ever a time I wasn't happy here. It was always a nice place to live, and very friendly.
Still is.
And still is. I think the beach looks better today than it's ever looked, and the shelter is in good shape. It still has things that need to be done, but we had a lot more like spontaneous activities down there. Like we have pictures of, like, Linda Dove and George Dove's son were friends with my son, and we used to go down there and have tug of wars and swim races and play volleyball and things like that. They don't have as many activities for that age group. And I guess, because maybe the same thing's happening, they're off, now they're driving cars and they're not really around that
They're
much.
either way too young or
Yeah.
they're doing other things. But I don't know that. I don't think the beach looks as good as it's ever been.
You mean the beach itself, the sand and all that?
Well, that and no, I'm just saying. You said it looks what? What'd you say? It look better now than it ever did.
I think the beach looks, everything down there looks better than it used to years ago. We used to have doors on the shelter,
Garage doors.
garage
Yeah.
doors,
Yeah, but
and that was not
that got
good.
vandalized all the time.
That was not
We had
good.
Yeah, that got
Well,
vandalized
But-
a lot.
a good improvement we have today are
With the
is
curtains.
the fence and the gate.
Right.
Yeah.
That's big, and when we put that riprap up, the rock, the stone, and once that was done, I think the beach looked the best it's ever looked at that point.
How many years ago?
Oh, geez, probably 20. I'm trying to think of when we did that.
When do you think the shelter was built?
Oh, geez. Did those pictures in the 20s, was the shelter there?
No.
It's been there, well, it was there when we got here. So that's 45 years.
Yeah.
Oh, so it was there.
Oh, yeah.
45
Oh
years
yeah.
it
ago.
was there.
Oh yeah. There is still sand in the front.
Yeah.
But depending on the tide, if it's a real high tide,
So
it's
how
gonna,
we see today the shelter, it was that way
I think so.
always.
I mean, for the longest time that I can remember, we always had a little issue with that one side of the shelter where it looks like the foundation was exposed, but it hasn't. To me, it hasn't changed in 20 years. It's just the tide coming in, tide going out. Sometimes it's sandy and no problem, and all those stones.
we've actually gained some beach.
I think we have.
We
too.
have gained beach over the years. We have gained. Yeah.
And all those stones that got washed like onto the beach and in the water, those are the kind of things that a work party needs, and put them back up there against the shelter. 'Cause it's just those waves, like you say, those big boats come by and pull that stuff away from the shelter.
Plus the pier's been refurbished.
A couple times.
Yeah.
Carol and Lou, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you,
Thank
Eddie.
you.
It is very nice.
Very nice. Yeah, and
you're a
I
good
think
interviewer.
I think it would be good to, have the other families that have been here a while to get their
but
information.
that's
Yeah.
one of them. Bob and Molly Sherwood, and then